Vincenzo's Gold Crypto Investing this November the 15th, 2025. Uh, Gold and silver bullion and mining stocks. And as you can see, the mining sector, bullion had a huge down day as rate cuts became a little less likely next month in December to end the season out after two consecutive cuts. But the miners have showed great resilience as they were down greater than 4 to 6% this morning, and they have primarily bounced back to even, or they're actually, some of them are slightly positive, like B2 Gold was down to $3.80 something cents this morning, and it's now back to $4. But the more pressing issue is the cryptocurrencies, and the Bitcoin has collapsed down below 96,000, even briefly, I believe, below 95,000. Vincenzo's Gold Crypto Investing has been on top of this for you, and now the key questions you all are asking in the comments and around social media now are even asking, is MicroStrategies in trouble? Are these quasi-Bitcoin companies going to have some very uncomfortable phone calls from the big banks, as the Bitcoin is now sub 100,000 and potentially going to 76,000? Ethereum now has become a major player in these quasi-Ethereum treasuries, where they bought tons of Ethereum and mortgaged their companies and borrowed against them, and banking that Ethereum would go up. And now Ethereum's down more than 30% and on its way, threatening to go down to 2,600. Is this just a brief collapse, or is this just the beginning of the next 2 months of pain, 2 months of doom, and 2 months of dumps across the crypto sphere, leading into what we've been dubbing the whole year as 2026 into 27 as the end game blow off top of this bull market? And we were warning because nobody else was. What if there was a big correction in a bear market coming before the blow off top end game of this bull market? But we were only one channel. I can only warn so much, and you can see this forecast actually played off, and we breached the $100,000, and which is the 50-day moving average in the weekly time frame, and our target on that breach is the 100-day moving average, which is used to be at 76,000, which is near MicroStrategies average price. So now MicroStrategies, which was up on paper so many billion dollars, is now only up roughly 32% when he was up a lot more than that. And as you get closer to that, and if it sustains more than just a wick, say you're there for a few weeks to a couple of months, those are going to be very uncomfortable phone calls and conversations that he's either going to have to come up with liquid cash to calm down some of those margin fears, or he's going to have to sell some of these things at a loss or at an even to get some of those margin and leverage pressure off. But then if the price keeps going down, which by him selling those would be selling Bitcoin, putting them into the open market on a falling price when there's already sell pressure, would drive the price down more and cascade on itself, right? And you'd have to sell more. And then across the sphere, as most of these quasi-Bitcoin treasury companies that turn their companies into this started doing it with Bitcoin north, I repeat, north of $100,000. You heard that correctly. North of 100,000, unlike MicroStrategies that started at then the all-time high of 20,000 and change. These companies are under now, right? Because they've been buying at 100, 110, 120, and their average price is north of 100,000. They're going to start having some leverage calls from the companies that they took the loans out to buy this Bitcoin if it continues to go down. And the next target is 85,000. That doesn't mean it's coming straight down to 85,000. It could, in the short term, which usually it does, somewhere in the middle of this, it bounces back up, gives a fake rally, gets back up, and then it comes down. But I believe the next major move is coming down, and we're going to hit the 100-day moving average in the Bitcoin price. And nobody's really talking about it still, but that's what old Vincenzo's here to become an asset millionaire. I'm not a financial advisor. I would never tell you to buy, sell, or trade anything. I'm just here to share how I'm becoming an asset millionaire, what I do, staying out of debt, living below my means, using my income to invest in real estate, stocks, 401k, cryptocurrencies with a very small percentage in there, gold and silver bullion and mining stocks, right? That's what I'm doing. I have no debt. Use your income to invest, and that's what I'm here to do. And if you get any value out of that or want to help support the channel to keep it free and the lights on and to keep expanding as we are and grow into more and more people, it's $3.99 a month, video description and or pinned comment. It's as cheap as that to help support the channel. But that's what we're looking at, and eventually we could be coming down to 65,000. That would be catastrophic, and that's what we've been warning about. As the whole sphere thought November, December, into the holidays were going to be the pump, because the most recent trend since COVID was the holiday pump, the early spring dump, the early summer pump, and the mid-fall dump, and then repeat, right? And I said, what if, because everybody's thinking of that it goes the opposite way. And look at that, Ethereum actually came, I can't believe how much Ethereum came down last night. In a quick, swift move, finally did make that drop back down to $3,050. We've had our bounce off of it now, and now the critical thing is, if we don't reestablish and have a ferocious rally and get back above this $3,474, it's going to dump down, and it's going to dump down big, and the next major move is going to be $2,475. But that's not to say it's coming straight down there, but that is a potential target to the downside. You can see the XLM came all the way down after getting rejected, finally came down this morning to the 26 cents. And you can see now what we're going to expect is we're going to pump to the upside, and we're going to try to reestablish bullish by getting on top of the 50 in the weekly time frame in red up there, or it's going to lose this eventually. It might trade out for a few days, and then before you know it, we're coming down here to the 200-day moving average in the weekly time frame, which is on top of what we've been talking about ever since, I think, 5 weeks ago now, the great dump. When was that? We're right there, the great dump. And we were saying everybody loaded up on this stuff on the great dump. What if we were coming back down there for a liquidity pull? Because everybody was so bullish across the sphere, big station, small station, mainstream or not. They thought the holiday pump was going to be in again. And old Vincenzo was at least bringing the question to you, my lovely audience, when nobody else was, because I didn't care about the views. I didn't care about the clicks. I didn't care about the momentum and the hype. I cared about keeping you informed with the information and education you need on a daily basis that I am looking at, learning, and seeing, and sharing with you. And that's all that matters, and that's what we're here for. This channel was built by and for you, my beautiful, lovely, glowing audience, and we're here to help you, not chase you, into becoming asset millionaires by being steady and consistent with a mentality and execution of your mentality and game plan that drives your overall living on a day-to-day basis, living healthy, eating good foods, living below your means, staying out of debt. It's a mentality and a lifestyle, and that's the reason why you're going to be an asset millionaire. An asset millionaire is born by consistent actions that lead results to compounding results, right? As this channel is compounding on itself and growing, you need to compound on yourself by day-to-day good habits and good deeds. It starts by changing something small and continuing that change, and then adding on to that change the next day by changing something that you wanted to that is achievable in one day, and then changing that, and then building upon that. And eventually, over a few months, enough of those changes, those singular changes, have compounded onto 40 or 50 changes now, and now you see drastic changes in results in a positive way in your life. And that's what it's all about, and that's why we're here with the mentality, right, of truth, trust, education, and information. You can see the XRP is below the 50-day moving average in the dreaded weekly time frame. I don't know why my truck's still on. In the weekly time frame. All right, we're just going to turn it on right now. This weekly time frame 50, you're going to get heavily rejected, and before you know it, you're going to be sitting in an up and down fashion on the $1.87, right? Because you can see how we got to where we are now. Look at all this bouncing that took place here before we hit here, and then look at all this before you get here. It's a drastic up and down swing until you get to where you're going, but I think the general target is bearish. And if we don't have a short-term bullish turnaround in all of these coins, $1.87 and potentially $1.36 down the pipe is definitely in play here in the XRP. The algo, the same thing. We've been heavily rejected, and we did get rejected off the daily time frame, 19 cents. And we told you if you couldn't reestablish above that 20 cents, 10 cents is your next major move. And I do believe we're more than likely going there. And as you can see, algo didn't really have a big wick 4 weeks ago when we've actually went below that wick that we had. Xeon is just deep, dark despair, and we have a 00237 target, and that target's been up there ever since on Xeon. We were way back here talking about this, and we continued to go bearish, and that is our underneath target still, and that's where I think we're going before we have any kind of major correction. You can see we did get rejected by the 0.062. Our underneath target of 0.0411 is still intact, and I think that is where you're going in the XDC, as I got to move this along today. H-bar, same thing. You're about to give back major support, and this is a warning to H-bar swing traders. And if this advice saves you any money, remember that, and maybe donate to the channel and become a member of Jabroni Killer or Super Chat, right? But I think once you break this 0.156, you immediately drop an H-bar in an up and down fashion. Before you know it, 43.34%, a low you haven't hit since 1 year ago at the end of the, or 1 year ago at the beginning of this month with the COVID pump. Now with the Donald Trump pump. Now you're on the bubble dump, right? And if that saves you any money on this 43% incline coming, give me a shout out here and give me some thanks. You can see the same thing with Quant. It's all the way back to $69, and we did hit that target beautifully, something that we've had since we had the big pump. Last year when we were sitting at $174, we had our bullish target, and then we had our bearish target, and our next target is $49 if you don't reestablish some bullish momentum. And that's the case in the rest of the sphere, as there's mass bearish action and sentiment in the price because there was so much bullish hope, and everyone thought the price was going up because it's been the recent trend the last nearly half a decade. Like the channel, stick here for truth, trust, timely education and information that you need, that's looking out for you and you alone, not looking out for my best interest, looking out for our best interest as I am sharing what I am doing to become that asset millionaire that I am preaching. Peace and love, the Rex Eyebrow, Jay.